Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is worksheet 5, which is basically a review of chapter 7A and 7B. And if you notice, highlighted here, this is a good study guide for the test. All right, it's got every type of problem on there. If you are good with this, you're good with the test. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. There are 26 questions, and they said it's split up between the first page is pretty much I guess up through the first 16 problems is chapter 7B, and 7A then is from 17 to 26. Okay? All right, anyway, let's get going here. If you guys remember the square root of negative 16, the first thing you do with that negative is you take it out, and it becomes an I. So it's really negative I times the square root of 16. And square root of 16, if you didn't know that, square root of 16 is just 4. If you didn't know that, you can break it up into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So you get 2 pair come out, which gives you 2 times 2 is 4. So negative 4I. Okay, to answer that one. Negative 60, again, I'm going to pull that out right away. I'm going to get I root 60. And then I break that up. 60 divided by 2 is 30, so 2 times 30. 30 is divided by 2 is 15. 15 is divided, I can't do that by 2 anymore, so it's 3 and then 5. And that's broken up as much as possible. Take the 2 out, so the answer is 2I, and left over is 15. Okay? Before you can do any operation, you have to take out the negative. You can't have a negative under the radical. You just can't do anything with it. So I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to pull that out. So I get I root 5 times I root 3. So we get I squared, right? I times I squared. And then 15, you can't do anything with it because it's just 3 and 5. So that stays there. But remember I told you, no exponents with i's. So you got to use your little chart that we worked on from day 1 of this chapter. And I squared is negative 1. So it's negative, I don't care if you write the negative 1 there. Negative 1 root 15 or negative root 15 is good. Okay. Next one, you're going to multiply. Before we multiply, I know you all want to multiply here, but you got to take an I out first. So take that out and take that out. So you end up getting 3I root 5 times 4I root 10. And now we have 3I times 4I is 12I squared. And root 5 times root 10 is root 50. Okay? And then remember that I squared is negative 1, so it's negative 12. That's kind of nice. And then root 50, we're going to break it up. Divided by 2, you get 25, and 25 breaks up to 5 and 5. So I can take that out. So basically it's negative 12 times 5 root 2, or negative 60 root 2. That's my answer. Okay? These next two problems, first of all, I want to point out that that's a plus and that's a minus. Very important, okay? If it didn't have anything between it, would be FOIL, okay? So anyway, this one is 5 plus 2I plus 7 minus I. And just like x's, you combine them together. So we're going to do 5 plus 7 is 12. 2I minus 1I is 1I. So it's 12 plus I. This one, before I actually do this, I'm going to, that negative root negative 36, I'm going to pull an I out first, and same thing with this one. So you wind up getting 5 minus, and then take the square root of 36, which is 6. So it's actually 5 minus 6I. And that one is, I pull an I out, I get square root of 4, which is 2. So plus 2I. Okay, so just gotta be careful, right? Like this negative here, you still have a negative here. It doesn't go away, and this was plus. That's still plus. So that doesn't change. You just pull an I out, and it becomes, you get rid of it. That basically gets rid of this negative inside the radical. Okay? Anyway, once I'm to this point, it's kind of nice because it's 5. I'm going to get rid of the parenthesis because you don't need it. It's just going to be 5 minus 6I, and then distribute the negative, right? So plus 7 minus 2I. So 5 plus 7 is 12. Negative 6i minus 2i is negative 8i. And that's your answer. Okay? These next 4 problems are basically knowing how to deal with that I, the chart that I did for you guys. You divide it by 4, and that gives you 5.75. That means it's remainder 3. That means it's I cubed. And if you look at the chart, that's negative I. So the answer to this problem is negative I. Okay, 62 divided by 4 is 15.5. Okay, that means remainder 2. So it's I squared. And I squared is negative 1. That's the answer. Okay, 96 divided by 4 is 24.00, right? There's nothing after it, so that's remainder 0. That's I to the 0, which is 1. That's your answer for that one. And then I to the 13, 13 divided by 4 is 3.25. So 0.25, it's remainder 1. So it's I to the 1, which is I. Okay? So those are pretty easy. Those are easy points, man. Easy points. Okay, number 11. Remember, you're going to cube the 5, and you're going to cube the I. So 5 cubed, put it in your calculator. 125 I cubed. If you left it like that, it'd be wrong, because I cubed, if you look on your chart, I cubed is negative I. So it's 125 times negative I, which is negative 125I. Okay. This one is, you got to distribute the 3i. So 3i times 7 is, remember, you treat the I like an x. So that's going to be 21i. 3i times negative 4i is negative 12i squared. Remember what I told you to do with an I squared? You change it to you change the sign. So it's really 21i plus 12. Okay? And I would like you to write it as 12 plus 21i. That's standard form. Always the I is always last. So the I is last. Okay? So 12 plus 21i. All right, very good. This is FOIL basically. So first, 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times negative 3i minus 6i plus 20i minus 12i squared. Remember that negative 12i squared is plus 12. So 10 plus 12 is 22. Negative 6i plus 20i is plus 14i. And that's your answer. Okay, this one, you got to write it twice. So 2 minus 5i. 2 minus 5i. So if I FOIL it, 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 10i. Minus 10i. Outside, inside. And last, plus 25i squared. Okay, and again, that plus 25i squared means minus 25. So 4 minus 25 is negative 21. And then negative 10i minus 10i is negative 20i. And that is your answer. Okay? Okay, on to the next page. 2 more problems with I in it. Again, well, let's do FOIL. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times negative 3i is negative 15i. 3i times 5 is plus 15i. And 3i times negative 3i is negative 9i squared. So remember, that's going to change to plus 9. 25 plus 9 is 34. And then these cancel because negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So the answer is just 34. Okay, so this one, again, it's just FOIL. So it's I root 3 times I root 3 is I squared. And root 3 times root 3 is 3. So that's 3i squared. Remember that. Root 10 times root 10 is just 10. Don't multiply them together and say root 100. It's just root 10. So root 1.2 billion times root 1.2 billion is 1.2 billion. Okay? Anyway, first is 3i squared. Outer is plus 5i root 3. Inner is minus 5i root 3. And last is minus 25. 5 times 5. The only thing I have to worry about here is that 3i squared is negative 3. This cancels. It's kind of nice. This guy right here cancels, right? 5i root 3 minus 5i root 3 is 0. That's out of there. So basically you just have negative 3 minus 25 is negative 28. Okay? All right, so we're done with that part. There's no more i's in here because there's no more negative square roots. So this is the old stuff, guys. The cube root of 56. Got to break it up, guys. Divide it by 2. Okay, that would give me 28. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So this is what it breaks up to. That's as much as you can break it up. And you're looking for a perfect cube, so 2's. So it's 2 and then the cube root of 7. That's your answer. Okay, 50. This is just a square root, so I'm going to break this up as much as I can. I'm going to make a big line there. 50 divided by 2 is 25. 25 is 5 and 5. And x to the 8th, I'm going to write it out as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And y to the 5th is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm looking for perfect squares. So I can pull out 5, a pair of x's, a pair of x's, a pair of x's, a pair of x's, a pair of y's, and a pair of y's. So that all comes out. So I get 5 on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, x to the 4th. 1, 2, y squared. And the leftovers are 2 and then y. That's your answer. Okay, pretty easy. This one you're going to put in your calculator. I showed you 18,000 times how to do it. 16, y to the x button, 3/2. Make sure you use your either fraction button for that 3/2 or parentheses for the 3/2. And if you do that, you get 64. Okay, so make sure you know how to do that on your calculator. This next one, guys, you have to look, as opposed to trying to take the square root of 54 and the square root of 6, look 54 divided by 6. Divide it. It's a fraction. If you want to use your calculator at the fraction button, the ABC button, 54 over 6 is 9. So it's 9, and do battle. X to the 8th over x squared, the top wins by 6. That's what you have. Okay, and the square root of 9 is 3. So, but if I write it all out, I get 3, 3, and then x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? You're pulling out pairs because it's square root. So 3, that, x, x, and x. Everything comes out. So 3's out and x cubed is left over. That's your answer. Okay. This next one, you multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 5 over square root of 5. All right. That, remember, you got to get rid of the square root in the bottom. That's key. So you're only looking at this guy right here. I don't care about anything else, just that square root of 5. That's why I multiply the top and bottom by square root of 5 over square root of 5. That gives me 2 square root of 5. And it's 3 times square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Just like square root of 1.2 billion times square root of 1.2 billion is 1.2 billion. So your final answer is 2 root 5 over 15. Okay? All right, number 22, in order to add or subtract radicals, you have to have the same number underneath the square root. So you have to simplify each one of these to see if you can combine them. That 5 root 2 you can't do anything with. So it's 5 root 2. I'm just going to write it out there. Plus 6, and let's simplify square root of 18. Divided by 2 is 9. So it's 2 times 9. And 9 is 3 and 3. Okay, minus the square root of 32. If I simplify that, divide by 2 is 16. Divide by 2 is 8. Divide by 2 is 4. And then that's 2 and 2. So that is 32 split up as much as possible. And so let's pull stuff out. It's got 2 3's, 2 2's, and 2 2's here. So you get 5 root 2 plus, if I pull a 3 out, 6 times 3 is 18. And I pull 2 2's out, so that's 4 minus 4 root 2. Ah, they're all the same now. That's pretty sweet. So think about it logically. Don't do anything goofy. It's 5 root 2. If I have 5 root 2's and I give you 18 more root 2's, you have 23 root 2's. I take away 4 of those root 2's, that means you have 19 root 2's. That's your answer. You can put that in your calculator, but truly you're just going to put the 5, the 18, and the negative 4. 5 plus 18 minus 4, and then put a root 2 after it. 19 root 2. Okay? All right, number 23. Basically, there's nothing really to simplify. 5 and 6 can't simplify, so you just got to combine the stuff together. Please don't combine the root 6 with anything. There's not another root 6 there. So if you want to put a 1 here to help you out, 4 root 5 plus 1 root 5 is 5 root 5. Right? If you have 4 root 5's and I hand you 1 more root 5, you get 5 root 5's minus 3 root 6. And that actually is your answer. Okay, this next one is FOIL. So root 5 times root 5 is just 5. Root 5 times 2 is plus 2 root 5. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 4 root 5. And negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So we're going to combine the numbers together. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. And 2 root 5 minus 4 root 5 is basically 2 minus 4 is negative 2 root 5. Okay. Pretty reasonable. And the last two, remember you got to solve for that square root, guys. So it's like saying, if I ask you 2x plus 2 equals 10, and I ask you to solve for x, what's the first thing you do? You subtract 2. So 2x equals 8. So watch this. Subtract 2. Right? And don't do anything with that 2 over here on the left-hand side here. It's still there. And then what do you do? Like back to this guy here, you divide both sides by 2. So x is 4. So I divide both sides by 2. Guys, remember, I taught you this back in the day. Our goal is to isolate the square root. And I did. So I subtracted the 2. So remember, this is kind of like boxed in. Think of this as your big X. It's like saying 2x plus 2. So you don't do anything with that x plus 3. You get rid of the 2 first by add and subtracting. So in this case, subtract. And then you divide by 2. Okay, so you basically isolated the x plus 3, just like I said over here. Okay, and then your next step is you need to square both sides to get rid of the square root. So you get x plus 3, because it just gets rid of the square root, equals 16. My last step is subtract 3 from both sides. So x equals 13. And it's easy to check it too. Guys, just check. Look at this. If I put a 13 in there, 13 plus 3 is 16. I'm putting in the original problem. 16, square root of 16 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. I got it right. I know I did. Okay, this next problem is easy, especially when there's not anything other than just the square root. I'm just going to square both sides to get rid of the square root. So 4x minus 6 equals 2x plus 4. So easy. And then I'm going to add 6 because I want to put the numbers to one side and subtract 2x. So I basically get 2x on this side. That cancels. That cancels there. So 2x equals 10. And divide both sides by 2. So x is 5. And again, it's so easy to check it. Plug it in. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 6 is 14. So that gives me the square root of 14. And look at the other side. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. And they equal. So that checks. Okay? It's so easy to check the answers. So, guys, 26 problems. I mean, there's going to be probably a few more problems on the test. But it's the same idea. As long as you're good to go with how to do 7B and 7A, again, this whole review, you're good to go for the test. All right? That's it, math fans. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.